one thing I've been noticing on the progression of these new engines is the durability. These manufacturers are taking a lot of extra steps to make sure that these engines are holding up. Prime example, Kawasaki's. Let's start back at 04 when they came out with their 4-stroke. I mean, that was a nightmare. Was
it really?
Oh, they were not good. They were time bombs. So then you fast forward even to like a 14 Kawasaki. I tore one down. It had probably close to 100 hours on it. Mm-hmm. The cylinder still had crosshatch on it. The piston wasn't super scored up. I measured it and I was like, this thing isn't terribly out of spec. Like, yes, it needs rebuilt, but it's like, it's just now getting there. So it's like, and the dude was fast. Yeah. He beat his bike. So it's like, man, this is crazy.
100 hours.
That's a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours.
Yeah. A lot of hours.
They've come a long way.
They have.
The Kawasaki Suzuki build.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think they failed right off the bat because, Honda. That's why I went back to a Honda. I was out of the bikes for a number of years, and my previous bikes were Hondas. Didn't do anything to them.
Right.
Change oil, change air cleaner, make sure everything's good. It ran.
Yeah.
I sold an old XR 350. It probably had 125,000 miles on it.
Right.
I never did anything to it. I shouldn't say that. We first got it, and you're supposed to do a 4-angle valve cut. That was the biggest thing. So when I got it, that's what we did. Okay, but I rode that thing, 100, 200 miles every single weekend, and so then got rid of it, started having family, decided to go back in. I get this 06 or 05 or 06 Honda and had nothing but problems right off the bat. Yep. It's like, well, I bought Honda because Honda's always dependable. You get on them, you ride them. Well, I have that one, then we get another one. And it just never was, the old air-cooled things.
Yep.
It just, everything seemed to be happening. Like, well, what happened to the reliability?
They were trying to get more horsepower out of it. And it was three things, basically. It was, one, the material that they were using for the valve seats and the valves, and also the burn pattern inside the combustion chamber. It would heat up that right side intake. The way the flame would come across, it would get a hot spot on the right side intake, and it would make the metal soft, and that was the main valve that would suck up into the head. That was unfortunately a bad
do you think it's more of a an engineering, this is because everything's throwaway now, right? I mean, literally everything that we touch is throwaway. I mean, do you think that's kind of like part of it? Like you say, you're trying to crank out power. It's like, well, this is the consequence of
and their excuse probably was, well, this is a competition bike. If you look in the manual, it says to replace your cylinder head every 5 hours. Okay, I'm not a factory rider. I can't just buy $600 cylinder heads every other week. That's not feasible. So, but now everyone's going to plasma coated cylinders and bridge box pistons. It's like, wow, this stuff is gonna hold up. But the one thing that just hit me the other day is, so a lot of the manufacturers, all your Japanese manufacturers, I should say, are running a hemispherical head, meaning the spark plug is right in the center of the head in the combustion chamber. They're making good power. And it was always the Hemi head. That's how, that was like, oh yeah, if you have a hemispherical head, you're going to produce great power.
Right.
But then you look at these Austrian bikes. You look at the KTMs, the Huskies, the gases. They're not running hemispherical heads, and they're putting out more horsepower than Japanese bikes.
Yeah.
Their spark plug's actually coming in on the side. And I was like, so you can just kind of throw the whole the Hemi head is where it's at. You can throw that out the door and say, no, this design, having the spark plug in the side, because again, that changes how the combustion occurs. That changes your burn pattern. For some reason, that just clicked with me the other day. I was like, well, wait a second.
Well, aren't the Austrian ones, again, I'm a 300 two-stroke guy, but aren't they a little bit more reliable four-stroke wise?
Yeah.
Than the Japanese
Well,
bikes?
I mean, they're about the same. They're about the same.
Used to always be reliable, more reliable than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a different type of bike. Of course, you paid more. You're getting better equipment, better technology, and I think they've always built a good bike. Not that Honda hasn't or Suzuki or Kawasaki. It just seems like it's the typical buying a Mercedes versus a Chevy. You're getting two different cars with two different pricing, but all the little things that they do is made to last, to be reliable.
And the Japanese are starting to catch up. You're starting to see them mimic a lot of the KTM ideology on their components, and it's like, okay, I see where you guys are going.
It just takes them a long time. They don't catch up overnight.
Well, I think it's because it's the Japanese mentality. If they're going to if they're going to put something out, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be just so. Yep. So, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll see any Japanese steel frame bikes just because of the cost of steel over there. But I think if the Japanese came out with a steel frame bike, all bets are off. And then you have a great handling bike and good horsepower. If they can squeeze a little bit more, maybe keep working on their head design. I know Kawasaki's got a really killer that finger follower valve train is really good. They've been running that in MotoGPs for quite some time now, and it seems to work. So I mean, Kawasaki is really starting to step it up, and they're kind of restructuring their company right now to where they can compete with KTM. I think like I just feel like Kawasaki has their crosshairs on KTM. They're tired of seeing Cooper Webb winning all the time. So it's like, no, we need to make sure we get the best bike out there so we can throw anyone on it and win. We miss winning because they used to be dominant back when Carmichael, Villopoto, all those dudes. So,
and I think that's exactly what happened. The Hondas, the Kawasaki's, the Suzuki's have sort of rode the wave that they've had. They've had some great runs. I mean, when you think about having a dependable bike, what comes to mind? A Honda. Honda's just got on the road. You know, I've never really been. I rode a few Suzuki's and stuff, but that's when you started coming out with that Austrian bike, the bar was set so high. That it took a while for them to realize, like, wow, we're getting spanked. And it's normal for them to, the Australians, when they build a bike, they're building quality, So they were riding their wave a little bit. Like, KTM's, they're doing their thing and they're ready to race. Yeah, right. And I think what happened is all of a sudden they got caught like, oh my gosh, we're so far behind at this point in time. And reliability is the biggest thing. It may not be on the race side of life. If I'm rebuilding my motor every time I go to a race, then what's reliability?
Right.
It's as reliable as your mechanic.
Exactly.
Right. And it's not the bike. But when I buy 4 bikes for my grandkids or my kids and I can't get them to run, and they're having issues and they're doing this, they're looking to spend more money on something else. Because
it didn't take very long either. KTM came out with a linkage. That was their first year. We're going to be serious, right? 2011, first year for a linkage on a KTM.
Game changer.
We're going to hire Michael Essie and Roger DeCoster. And I forget who all was on the team that year. But anyway, 2011, they put a linkage on. And they hired Dungey, I believe, in 13. 12 or 13?
Yeah, 12, I think it was.
12?
I think he won in 13, didn't he?
Yeah. So all they did, they said, we're going to put a linkage on this and hire the right guy.
Yeah.
And, realistically, a lot of people didn't buy the 12, 13s, and 14s. But when that 15 factory edition hit, that then became the new chassis, that was when the game changing happened. So it took them 4 years from the linkage to figure out how to win. To be at the top of the sport and at the top of selling motorcycles.
And the Japanese bikes and the Japanese companies are sitting back and they're not doing anything because they're not making sales.
They can't do anything in 4 years. They can't move that fast.
And they're not making any sales, so why do I want to invest?
Well, I remember distinctly back like when the Great Recession hit, remember 08, 9, 10, 11? I remember reading Eric Burleson, which he worked for KTM, and I remember reading an article and I thought, wow, okay, this is so what the context was is basically you're a manufacturer, how are you handling this Great Recession? And basically KTM said, we're going to still keep spending money.
Yep. And they did.
It's paying off.
And it's paid off. I mean, because all the other ones were,
Yeah.
You know who else did that? Western Power Sports.
Yeah.
Did they?
Fly Racing is where they're at because of not pulling back.